Hi, I'm Bob Canote, and on this episode of the Camp Chaos Chronicles, I think it's time we made some noise around this place. Dang it. Our noisemaker of choice today is going to be this 1985 Jaguar 5.3 liter V12 engine that I overhauled for a customer who lives in Ohio. And this engine it's a bit of a problem. First of all, I received two engines from the customer. One was the engine that was out of his car, and that engine had been taken to a shop, which was apparently a high-end shop in Ohio someplace that was recommended to him by one of the major retailers, and the guy kept his engine for a year and didn't really do anything. And finally the customer said, you know, I'm going to pick up the engine, can you at least pull the heads off? And the heads were jammed on so tight I had to cut the studs. Had to bang the studs out with a punch and a hammer once I got the studs cut. And that was too bad, because it was not an awful engine to begin with, but in order to get the head sorted out and to do other things that it really needed, the crankshaft had an issue as well. What we eventually did is we took the spare engine, which was one that had gone through the ubiquitous engine fire because of leaking fuel injector hoses. And that was a really awful one that you saw during the Hell Week videos last season. And so we really had to do a lot of cleanup on the thing. The manifolds, all the castings were corroded very, very badly because of the fire and because they'd been sitting a while after the fire. So we put a lot of time and effort into getting this thing looking good, and it really does. Also, this engine, we did an air injection delete, in the sense that we removed the air rails and the tubing that runs up to the air pump. We still have the air pump in it, but it's been gutted. It's basically just an idler pulley. It's ready to go. Before we get started here, there's a couple things that I need to check. And first of all, I'm going to take and cycle the key. And that will cycle the pump, so I know that there's fuel at the rail. Now, if this were in a car, what I would do is I would actually take the return to the fuel tank loose and put a piece of clear vinyl hose on it and point it at a container, and then hot wire the pump in the trunk to the battery and let that run until I got fuel coming out here. Because you don't want to spin these engines, or any engine for that matter, unnecessarily, you know, waiting for fuel to show up at the injectors. So this way, you know that that part of the equation is taken care of. So we know that we've got fuel at the fuel rail here. Now, a couple more checks that we need to make is, first of all, we're going to install a spark tester in between one of the spark plug leads and the spark plug in order to check for spark. There's a little tube in there of some type. I don't know if it's neon or it's not a diode, I don't think, but whatever it is, it flashes when there's current going through it, telling you that you got spark at the plug. Doesn't tell you anything about the plug, but at least you got power getting to it. Another thing is you take one of these things, which is called a Noid light. There's a little diode in there, and you plug that into the end of one of the connectors that connect the harness to the injector, and you got two of these in close proximity to each other, and then you just turn it over a couple of times and you should get signal at both of these. Because if you don't have one or the other, there's no point in turning the engine over. So I've already done that, and we're in good shape. A couple more things about this engine, other than it looking really good. We've got new pistons, new rings, resized liners, reground crankshaft to 10,000th undersize, new water pump, rebuilt the ignition amplifier. A short Tuesday extra on how to do that, real easy, for about 20 bucks or less. And we've got an air conditioning compressor here that is aftermarket. Doesn't look like the old loaf of bread frigid air unit, the A6, but it's supposed to do a really good job. The distributor has been disassembled, cleaned, reassembled. The module on the inside has been tested and found to be in really good shape. The fuel injection harness has been made new. All of the other electrical harnesses on it have been stripped of insulation and checked for cracks and continuity from one end to the other. Also, the timing chain tensioner, which you can't see but is right about there, that's brand new. Essentially everything's been checked to make sure it's working or replaced, so it's ready to go. I'm really proud of this thing. It's always a joy when we do the first start. So that's a win. So it runs, and it runs great. And just as important, it doesn't leak, particularly the rear main seal. That's the whole point of this exercise, to make sure that it runs well and that it doesn't leak before it goes in the customer's car. That's when you don't want to find out that it does, particularly the rear main seal. That's going to be a nightmare for them. So a couple of points. First of all, you don't want to run an engine on a stand like this for very long, because in order for the rings to seat quickly and properly, it really needs to be in the car and be driven in different load and different RPM situations. You don't want to have those kinds of problems in the customer's car, so we don't run it very long, just enough to learn what we need to learn. The other point is, I lied to you. That wasn't the first start, which should have been pretty obvious. The fact is, when I was checking for spark and injector signal yesterday, it started hitting right away. And what are you going to do? You're going to let her buck, which is what I did. And it fired right up, ran kind of rough, which they'll do until the injectors get fuel. And it's been running great ever since. So this is a really good day. And that's the first in 3 engines that we need to get out the door here in about a month and a half. First of all, this one that's going to Ohio, and then we got another one that's going to be going to Arizona by the end of the month, or at least we'll have it running by that time. And then shortly thereafter, we got one that's going here in Minnesota. And so 1 down, 2 to go. Now, if you like these videos, like, subscribe, maybe leave a comment down below so we know what we can do to do better. So we'll see you the next time on the Camp Chaos Chronicles.